3 to a seat. Kathy shared, the division does not put 3 students in one seat as regular practice. There are some exceptional circumstances where it may work, but in general, there are 2 students per seat. And this is not a prohibited practice, we are asking for the School Board of Trustees to grant an exceptional circumstance for Jack to sit 3 students to a seat. We would also like to mention, we would also like to mention that we know of at least one school of choice student on this route that has been granted priority over a local student. We understand the funding, but why is the division not trying to give us as much help to local students as possible? As per Sunrise School Division's School of Choice document, which was included in our appeal request email, schools of choice applications will be considered when all students living within the designated school catchment area have been accommodated. We do not feel that everyone has been accommodated within the designated catchment as far as transportation capacities. Without the document stating the level of accommodation, we must believe this also refers to accommodating transportation as well. We recognize that we are not the only people having to deal with this transportation concern within the division. So we ask the board to look at action plans to address transportation issues in these rapidly growing communities if they are not already doing so. To finish off, our child feels very excluded by the whole situation. He does not understand why he cannot just get on the bus like everyone else, including the children at his daycare that he watches get on the bus. He asks almost every day if he can go on the bus soon and that his best friend keeps telling him there's a spot for him next to her. Our child is very shy, and it was recently mentioned by his grade 1 teacher that he is not where the other kids of his age are with confidence. Again, we hope that the school board can assist with our requests to provide him with an opportunity to be with his peers, thus building the confidence and giving him opportunities to excel. This has been a disheartening few weeks as we tried to navigate the situation. We feel that our child is only being looked at as a number and not an individual. We are not saying this is intentional, but just the feeling we have been getting. We do not. And we would like to thank everyone for the responses to our emails. The responses have always been quick and concise, and we thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you for doing that. That's not easy, coming in front of a bunch of strangers and going ahead and speaking to us, and you did very well. Thanks for going ahead and sharing that. Do we have any questions do any of us need any more information or questions as to where we are? I'm going to have one question, and I maybe missed it in here. How far away from you from the school? Home.
Our home is approximately 800 meters. Yes.
Anyone else? Okay. So hearing none, thank you for coming out and sharing that information. Here's the process. The process is the board is going to talk about this tonight. And we will give direction to our senior administrators. And just as what I told you outside, the board makes the policy on rules as to what it is. We expect Kathy and Jody and Lars and Jason that are in here to follow those rules. It doesn't mean that rules can't be changed as to what it is, but that's why they have 9 trustees as to where it is. But their job is to follow the rules. And the rules that as we set policy, they need to follow policy that's based on where things are. Just to make sure I'm being very clear with you as to what it is. So the process will be, we'll discuss tonight certainly what you've asked for, and we will get back to, Kathy or someone from, we will instruct Kathy to have someone get back to you within 3 days.
You mentioned one thing that you were willing to change. I can't remember what you said you were willing to change.
Julie had sent an email as we inquired about other daycares that were closer and within walking distance. Because the issue is that even though our house is within walking distance, we're not home at those times. So we were looking for alternative daycares that may be on different bus routes that may have additional seats available. And then we were instructed that there are no seats left on any buses. So that was where we were willing to look at switching daycares, moving him to a daycare that sits on a route that does have an available seat. No.
Anyone else? So thank you very much. I think that you presented your point very well. Again, we will have a discussion and we'll get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jody, we are going to move on to 4.2 and I'll allow you to introduce.
So we have next on the list our transportation manager, Jason Ziprick. Just kind of interesting how we have a transportation delegation and we have, oh sure. But we have Jason, he's going to be presenting just an overview of the transportation department, what they've been up to, what are some highlights going on in their department. So he's put together a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation. I'll get that up on my screen shortly. And yeah, just to highlight some exciting things going on in transportation. It is a busy time of year in the month of September, making sure we have all the routes planned. Unfortunately, sometimes there is no way we can accommodate additional passengers. Other times we can because of the routes. With that being said, I think I'll pop it on the screen here, and I'll let Jason kind of speak it away.
Jason, before you start, do you know everybody in the room?
I do, yes. Yeah. So thank you for having me. It seems like a short amount of time has passed since I was here last, but it has been almost a year. So, man, time does go by fast. So thank you for having me, and hopefully we'll get a chance to have some good dialogue and discussion. I've got a short presentation that will be under the 10 minutes, but certainly there's time for questions and discussion. So I'm just kicking it off with I always come in here and we talk a lot about buses. We're going to talk about buses tonight. We're going to talk about fuel tonight. We're going to talk about routes tonight. We're going to talk about all that stuff. But I want to start off by showing you, in pictorial form, the many faces of transportation and what it takes to transport 4,000 kids to and from school every single day. And this is missing a number of folks. I just couldn't get out there to get everybody's picture taken, so there's about 30 people that aren't on here. So it's a neat little slide to show all the smiling faces and highlight that while buses are important, fuel is important, routes are important, really the crux of what we do is with people. And we could not do it without people. And we'll talk a little bit about what happens when we don't have people, because we're in that situation on a daily basis. But certainly I cannot continue the presentation without highlighting some of the awesome people that we have and the teamwork, the perseverance, the patience that they show, because it is being a bus driver is a wonderful job, but it's not a wonderful job for everybody. So it only works for a small amount of people. And then we've got our mechanics. We've got 7 mechanics that work nonstop to keep the buses going. We've got our office staff, our secretaries that answer the bulk of the phone calls and who do a wonderful job. We've got our driver trainers, our courier, all of those things. We can't lose sight of the fact that is what keeps us rolling. So the first 2 months of our school year, you know, the biggest challenge right now, I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that we are unable to bring on new drivers unless they're coming with the Class 1 because of the MPI labor disruption. So all of our new drivers require a road test, and that is just not available to us at this point. I don't know when that will be resolved, and then when the resolution happens, because it will happen, I am not sure of the backlog that they're going to be sitting with and how quickly they're going to be able to get us through, because there's going to be a lot of people wanting road tests, and there's only a certain number of people that are qualified to do that. So that is a challenge. Our success and the success that we've had over the last couple of years is we're always hiring, right? There's always going to be churn. There's always going to be bus drivers going off on medical leaves. There's going to be bus drivers getting surgeries that they've been waiting 2 years for. There's always going to be bus drivers who have to care for ailing parents, you know, either suddenly, you know, they slip and fall at Sobeys and they're in the hospital for a week. You know, those things take drivers away, and they have to go, right? There's no question, right? They have to go look after their parents. We're going to have retirements. We're going to have resignations. So the way that we combat that is to always be hiring, and that is taken away from us right now. So that is the situation where we've got our driver trainer driving almost every day. We've got our courier driving almost every day. Any spares that we have are out there on the road, and so far we haven't had to cancel any routes, but today was probably our closest. You know, one more person calling in sick, and that would have been it. So we've had a few days like that. So we did send out a letter to the parents saying, you know, that this is a possibility, and we'll continue to communicate and continue to do our absolute best. It's not something that we want to do, but if we have to, we will. And you know, any kind of help that we can get from people who have a Class 1, right? We could train those people and get them driving a bus, but for now we just have, for the most part, we have to wait till MPI settles their labor disruption. So from a bus route perspective, because of the shortage, we did eliminate one route in the Beausejour area, and that extended the time on a couple of routes. So when we are able to hire some drivers, we will put that one route back and juggle things around to help out the hot spots. Garson and Tyndall, that is not a retirement area. Every home that goes up there has kids. It is literally booming with kids. We added one route in there last year. A whole new bus went in there, and all of our buses that we're sending into Garson and Tyndall, they are packed. Right? It is probably we're going to have to add another bus route in there next year again, and that's going to be a requirement for another bus and another driver. And you know, it's a good problem, right? I don't think anybody's upset that our community is growing, because growth is awesome, right? It brings new people, brings new opportunities. It's good to be growing, but the challenges that we face, certainly in the transportation side, is that our buses are full going in that area, and like we just saw with the parent delegation. Yeah, there's going to be some kids who are not eligible for busing that we just can't get on the bus. So here's a summary of our non-eligible students, and it's very similar to last year on the numbers. So we had 42 students request busing, and we were able to accept 26. And last year, again, it was very similar. Oakbank, we had 22 requests, 13 we could approve. Gillis, we had 10 requests, 5 were approved. In Beausejour, we had 10 requests and 8 approved. From the bus perspective, because we all love talking about buses, our new buses should be arriving before the end of 2023. We have one is sitting in Steinbach ready for inspection, and one just got off the line in, I think it's Georgia, so it will make its way up here. So I think they are saying that by end of November we should have one for sure, and and by Christmas time, we should have both of our buses. So the bad news is that in the last 12 months, we've had to take 6 buses off the road due to major engine issues. Probably not worth fixing them. You know, when I look at the amount of kilometers that they have on them and their age of being, you know, around the 8 years old, sinking $30,000 to $40,000 into a bus of that vintage, it's a hard sell for me, right, to do that. So we might just use them for spare parts, see if we can sell them for something more than scrap. But certainly, as we get into our new budget year, we really need to roll up our sleeves and figure out how we are going to get some funding to replace those buses, meet our requirements in the growth areas, and get us on track for for having a sustainable bus fleet. Our propane station, you can see a picture of it there. It is now up and running after about a year of waiting for it to be delivered, inspected, approved, and all that stuff. It is, you know, it's going very well. That station that you see is certainly much better than the setup that they had initially installed, which wasn't, you know, very user friendly. This one is more like just pulling up to the gas tank, and away you go, push a button, click it on, and it fills up a bus in probably just under 10 minutes. So that's it's pretty quick. The propane buses, they're doing better, right? We got through that initial quality issue, and I think most of the things that were going to break have broken and been fixed. Our dealer's been very good in doing some things proactively as they discover that there were issues on the assembly line with some very standard things. So we had the same issue happen on a number of buses. So they were good where they fixed those proactively, or at least the repair time was shorter because they knew what the problem was. So that is good news from that perspective. And then my last slide is thank you to a parent, Corey Kelly, for taking this picture. So that is one of our buses leaving. It's a very nice picture, right? It certainly is. You know, one of the highlights of being a bus driver. You get a chance to have those kind of views in the morning, and it you know, is absolutely spectacular out there in the wilderness that our division can present to people. So thank you for your time. More than happy to answer some questions.
Thanks very much, Jason. Questions for Jason? Trustee Smith?
Just one kind of off topic. The two that were in the accidents, they weren't our propane buses, were they?
Anyone else? Trustee Rowan?
With the MPI strike, I'm not entirely sure how our training program works, but will we have people that are ready to take that test at a moment's notice when things do open up, or is there going to be work to be done before that?
So we have a number of people that are ready and waiting and just vibrating for that test, and then there's others that aren't as keen, and that this is the risk when you have this waiting period and there's no end in sight. They are less motivated to say, okay, let's do everything that I need to do in order to get ready. So that is the risk where, you know, you got a fish on the end of the hook, and it's taking so long to land that fish. Sometimes they get away. So everybody that wants to be trained and ready, they are ready. We've got a training class starting tomorrow with one person that has their class 1. So once they are done training, we can test them. So that is great news. And then there is another person who has his written test that we're going to get trained up so that he seems motivated and ready to go. So we'll have 3 for sure that will be ready for road tests when we're ready. And then the others we're still working on.
Trustee Nicol?
I got 2 questions. First question, if somebody has a class 1, how much extra time do they have to get trained to drive the bus?
It is just our basic training class, so 24 hours of training done by us, and then our driver trainer can test them and get them approved for being issued a Class 2 license.
The next question is that according in the Gillis area that you said, I understood that all the buses are full. Does that mean the buses are 72 passenger or are they less than 72 passengers?
We have some buses that are less than 72 passengers. And sorry, we have some that are smaller, but they are full, but I don't have bigger buses to put on there.
Anyone else? Trustee Harris?
I got some short snappers here. Do you have a part supply issue like everyone else going around in the world these days trying to fix buses?
Nothing that is as bad as it was during the height of COVID. So we are able to get most of our parts relatively quick. We did have to wait for, I think it was some internal oil pressure pump. We had to wait close to a year for that. So hopefully we don't need to order another one of those. Some of the larger specialty things, the wait might be a little bit longer, but our regular parts that we need as part of our churn of keeping buses maintained and on the road, we're not seeing any big issues with those.
You had mentioned the need for buses. I think, what do we get, 2 this year, and you're still waiting for them to arrive. So next year, if we're needing to add another bus here or there, we need to get more than 2 buses on our budget, correct?
That is correct. So that is the challenge, and I think I was here last year, and Jody and I created a document and a refresh plan that it's 7 or 8 buses is what we need for the next 3 years to manage our fleet, and we saw that we've taken 7 or 6 off the road just in the last 12 months. So in order just to keep at our steady state, it is around 7 or 8 buses per year for the next 3 years, and those, it's well over $1 million, approaching $2 million. And that's when I said we got to roll up our sleeves. We got to really roll up our sleeves and figure out a plan on what our options are for that.
Have you and other divisions let the government know of the challenge of hiring new drivers due to the current labor disruption?
Yep, I've talked to PTU, and they have tried to, when there was talk of alternative arrangements for a Class 5 testing during the strike, there was talk of not testing people. There was talk of having other people do the testing. Apparently that was floated out when I talked to PTU. That idea was floated out for Class 2, and it was not well received from that perspective. And I get it, from a Class 1 and Class 2 perspective, when you are driving a massive vehicle down the road. I don't know if I would be comfortable with anything less than the absolute best in road testing and proper diligence in approving these people to drive our children and on the roads. As of right now, PTU, our government entity, the Pupil Transportation Unit, they don't have a lot of solutions for us.
Good. One last one. Your first slide you had, which showed all the people, that made me want to turn the page to see more of what you had said. That was a great picture. How accurate is the comic strip crankshaft?
I have not read that in a long time. I can remember reading it as a kid. It's probably pretty accurate. Probably pretty accurate.
I could have worded that question
Anyone else?
differently.
Trustee Rowan?
Sorry, I've got a couple more questions here. You said in the last 12 months, we've taken 6 buses off the road due to blown engines. Do we have, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but do you have any that we're worried about in this next year?
Yes. To be honest, yes. I am very worried about, if we would lose another, 5, and then be down potentially 11 buses. It will make operations, quite difficult. Keep in mind that our spare buses, we have to bring in every bus for safety every 6 months, and that safety takes about 3 days to do, 2 to 3 days. So that's where our spare buses go, is to keep the buses running while we are doing those planned repairs, plus there's the unplanned repairs that we have. And then we are putting, potentially older buses onto routes and driving them more than would be, I'm not going to say wouldn't be safe, but more than what would be recommended. So yeah, it is a bit of a snowball if we aren't able to figure out something on how to refresh that fleet. It will just get worse. Like I don't need a crystal ball. It's just a fact that things break. Right? Nothing lasts forever, and when you get to the age of buses that we have, they are going to break down.
So are you suggesting that there are approximately 5 that are kind of at that end of life stage? I'm just trying to get an idea for our current fleet situation.
I would say that what happened in the last year of 6 engines failing in the last 12 months, I can't say which ones, but I would not be shocked if that happened again. Right? It's just numbers and age, and the fact that we drive a lot of kilometers, we drive a lot of hard kilometers, that buses will break down. And I can't say I hope it doesn't happen. Man, that would be the happiest I've been in a long time if we go through a year without any major issues like that. But probably looking at past experience and just the age of the fleet, yeah, it's going to be close to that again.
And are we, when we're rotating in the spare buses into these routes, are we trying to put them onto the shorter routes since they're not our newest?
Yep, we do try, absolutely. And the further exasperate the risk on how we manage our fleet is, we always try to keep the newer, more reliable buses in the areas like Powerview, Lac Du Bonnet, Whitemouth that are further away. And those buses they're good now, but if we don't start our refresh at a good rate, we won't have newer buses to put up there, and that what happens then is our repair times and our response times certainly get a lot longer, and we'll have kids waiting a lot longer on the side of the road if a bus breaks down, because we have to get to them from Beausejour to Powerview, which is an hour away. So we always want to keep our newer buses out in those further away areas.
Anyone else? So Jason, you said that in the last 12 months you've taken 6 buses off the road. So in the last 5 years, how many buses have you taken off? What's the average of how many buses you've taken off?
I would probably have to look back at my numbers. I don't know if I can give you anything. It would be similar to that, because whenever if we look back at the number of buses that we have purchased, those are, I try to take that number off the road, off the bottom, so we're not bloating up our fleet and putting repairs into older buses. So generally, we try to stick with the 1 in, 1 out, where we take those ones, the worst ones off the road. This is kind of happening for us though, right? So now we're in a bit of a deficit where we added 2 this year and we took off 6. So, that's not a good balance.
Yeah, so my question, so I hear you, but we had to take 6 off. So each year, how many do we have to take off? You don't have to answer that now, because part of it is in the last 12 months you said we've taken 6 off. So I want to know in the last 5 years, is this 6 every year, and so that's a concern for us, or is it this an anomaly year where you took 6 off because you had to take 6 off? You know what, you don't have to answer that right now, but that would be the question as to where it is. Of course, you know, obviously that there's a need, it sounds like there's a need for buses. I just want to know, you know what, is it an alarm that's going off for us that we've taken 6 off the road this year? And does that mean that every year we take 6 off, or do we normally take 2 off and this is a year where we've taken 6 off?
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look, and when I come with my presentation to say I need a gazillion dollars, I'll make sure that I have that information. But I think it's probably close that we would be taking 6 off, but you know, we're choosing which 6, and usually those are ones that are used very, you know, on as a spare. These were 6 route buses that we took off the road. So you know, a route bus is not the same as a spare bus, but those are things that I can layer in and paint that picture for you when we come with our plan.
I'll just jump in. I think we might have even indicated it in our budget document last year, kind of on the average, how many we flowed out and flowed in. And then on top of that, we may have, a couple of years ago, we had several that had blown motors, and we replaced the motors to keep them going because we had the funds in our bus reserve. So normally, depending on the life expectancy of that bus and where we're sitting, sometimes we'll do a motor replacement. But yeah, I think what we'll do is provide a report in either the budget document or a summary of when we go and present what it looks like.
And Jason doesn't have to have the information. The information that in my brain, you said you had to take 6 off. So I want to know is that, do we had to take the 6 off because you said engine blowing and we're not going to go ahead and replace them? And is that something that we do every year? Or is it something that we pick and choose and we decide to take how many off because they're old, but they could still drive as to what it is? Now, nobody wants to go ahead and have a bus fleet that's not safe. That's not the question at all. The question certainly is, you know, what kind of a situation are we in is what I'm looking for. And you'll let us know as you come forward, you and Jody, with that as we move forward. My other question is, what are some of the other divisions? So right now we haven't lost runs, because losing runs and saying to parents that that they have to drive their kids really is unacceptable to us. So we need to state that publicly. So we don't want that to happen. And I know you're doing your best about making sure that that doesn't happen, so we appreciate that. So what are other divisions? What's Lord Selkirk and Interlake doing? Are they in the same situation? Are we in the same situation as some of the others? Or are we just special?
Well, I know last year we did not cancel any runs at all, right? That was a rare occurrence for divisions in Manitoba. I haven't had a meeting yet because we've all been very busy with school startup. So I'll have a MASBO meeting at the beginning of November where we'll all get together and talk about that. So I'll get a better picture on what other divisions have experienced for, you know, the start of this school year. I'll be honest, I have not had a lot of time to discuss with them, but looking forward to meeting with them at the beginning of November at our MASBO meeting, and we'll share some stories there around what other divisions are seeing. I can see on, you know, if I follow them on Twitter or something, that there are divisions that have canceled routes this year already. I don't know the reason why. I don't call them up and say, I noticed you canceled Route 13 today. Why is that? But I'll have those chats with them at the start of November.
Thank you. Last question. So in your presentation, you talk about 42 students that are non-eligible, requested busing, and you're able to accept 26, and you've given some of the areas. So there were 10 requests in Gillis, and 5 were approved. So you don't have to tell me the rationale, but obviously there is a rationale that you've worked out with Jody with regard to why did those 5 get approved and the other 5 didn't. Yeah,
I can tell you there was just room on that particular bus. So So we were able to, because in Gillis, the bus routes go in different areas, so it depends on the area, depends on the request. That bus just happened to have less students on, so we had more room on that bus to be able to accept those students. And we do it from kindergarten up by bus route.
Thanks, Jason. Anyone else? Well, we appreciate, Jason, certainly the comment that you just made at the end is that last year we didn't have any, what's the word I'm looking for? We didn't have any canceled routes, because that certainly is, we believe is critical for us, certainly for our parents. So we haven't been there, and we continue listening for Jody as to the situation that we're in this year. We know that there's a concern for us. I'm glad that we've given a heads up to parents, but we really don't want to cancel routes as to where it is, because of it changes parents' lives very quickly in the morning, about getting kids to school, etc. And we know you're scrambling. But thank you for the work that you're doing as to where you're going. Thank you for giving us a heads up that we need to spend millions of dollars on buses, where we appreciate that. That's the best thing that I love talking about is buses. So yeah, so certainly thank you, Jason. Seriously for the work that you've been doing with our buses, keeping them on the road, trying to find as many bus drivers as possible. And yet, you know what? Hopefully the MPI strike can be averted as soon as possible, so we can get back to having a little breathing room. Thank you. Anyone else want to comment? Okay. Thanks very much, Jason.
Thank you. I do appreciate it. And again, highlight. I'm just one man, right? I get the privilege of leading that group, but it's the efforts of hundreds of people that allow us to be successful every day. So yeah, thanks. If you're out at schools and you happen to walking by, wave to the bus driver. Tell them that you appreciate what they do, and I think they would love to hear that from everybody. So thank you.
That's a great point, Jason. I think that any time that we can turn around and say thank you to people for the work that they're doing, yeah, we should be doing that on a regular basis. Nice point. Thank you for coming. We're going to move on. Minutes from our October 3rd regular meeting. Be it resolved the board adopt the October 3rd board meeting minutes. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Nichols, seconded by Trustee Rowan. Comments to the minutes? Hearing none, we'll vote. And it's 8-0. We have a superintendent's report. Kath, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much. I won't read the whole thing, but I will highlight a couple of pieces. So we are well into the world of extracurriculars. So we have all kinds of athletics and drama clubs and those sorts of things happening. So in the line of thanking our people, I wanted to thank dedicated coaches, supervisors. They spend hours and hours of their own time positively engaging with students in all of those activities. So it is really important to note that that is time of their own, that they choose to either coach an athletic activity or to provide an extracurricular. And next meeting we'll have a little bit of those engaging activities coming forward to you. I did want to again give a quick shout out about November 1st being Take Our Kids to Work Day, and that is very typically, taking your own child along to work with you, but it can be just a significant adult. So if, as most children are, not interested in their own parents' work life, by all means it can be a significant adult. I took my nephew to work with me and he is nowhere near wanting to go into education. So it can be a significant or important adult in their life, so thanks to anybody who's stepping up and helping out with that. As of this morning at 8 o'clock, there's been a change to the grade 10 provincial assessment. So I asked Stacy this morning to add an additional letter. So if you read your materials over the weekend, you will note there's an additional letter there, and I'll give you the highlights to that. The province came out this morning saying that we've dialed back or shifted our approach a little bit, and they are not doing a full-on every grade 10 in the province getting assessed on November 7th, 8th, and 9th. They are going to take a look at doing an assessment on the week of November 20th for just those students who are enrolled in ELA and math classes in the first semester. And it's not going to be all students, they're going to run a full pilot.
So they're going to ask school divisions to volunteer to pilot the test for them in the semester 1. They sent out some information for us in terms of how we can put our name forward. I've sent that out to schools. We've had a couple who've said, yep, we don't have time. Yep, we do have time. So we'll do our part in volunteering for doing some of the piloting. The marking will happen centrally. So we won't be taking staff out of classes. It'll be happening centrally. And that was information that was fresh off the presses at 8 this morning and is probably out and about there. And lastly, I'm going to use the dreaded, report card words and say, whether we like it or not, the weather is a little deceiving. It's still nice out and we have some sunshine and some good temperatures, but report card season's coming. So just that reminder to everybody that it is important to stay on top of the academics and the things you're doing in your classrooms, and that report cards is just a snapshot of where your child might be at that particular point in time. So take advantage of that. Connect with the teachers, talk with them, find out where your child is or isn't doing well, and just make sure that you're in good communication with your parents. I lied, I'm going to do one more. All of our schools have Remembrance Day services on November 10th. I'll bring a schedule for the board so you'll know the times and locations. We'll also have them in the local newspaper, but just wanted to make sure that folks were marking off their calendars for November 10th, because that is when we have our Remembrance Day services in schools here in Manitoba. Unless there's questions, that is the...
Trustee Smith?
When are the forms for the Take Your Kid to Work Day going to be coming home? Because my kid is in grade 9.
They should already have come home from the school, and I hate to do that to you, but check a backpack. Okay. Check a backpack and or contact the school directly. They'll get you a form if it's not coming home.
Any questions for Kath? Thanks. Kath, we have the draft reporting schedule that's there. Are there any questions with the draft reporting schedule? It's a good guide for us. Anything from anyone? Kath, you want to add anything? Okay, thanks, Kath. Secretary Treasurer's report. Jody?
Yeah, I'm gonna just highlight a couple things. We're looking for a finance manager to join the amazing Sunrise School Division. So it's a pretty great gig. You work under the Secretary Treasurer, and you work with a bunch of great people. So yeah, looking forward to seeing all the applicants, and it closes in October 27th. And yeah, other things I highlighted at last meeting, but I just wanted to reiterate, October 16th to the 20th is Bus Safety Week. So we want to make sure that everybody is paying attention to the rules of the road and stopping when the lights are flashing by the buses. Maintenance has been busy with updating the Hazel Ridge Gymnasium list. We recognize that we are waiting for the door that needs to go into the area. So it was back ordered, so we're still seeing some delivery date delays, but the goal is to complete that project by mid-November, so hopefully we can start seeing the use of it for our Christmas concerts if there's going to be, or an activity going on in the gym that we can allow everybody with accessibility issues, they can use that entranceway. Other things that are taking place, very exciting news. We've been awarded our second science lab at SCI. So SCI just completed a science lab renewal project at the end of last year, or last school year, and we've just been awarded another one. They just, the province awarded the tender to Breedan Construction. So we've just reviewed the scope of work, and the estimated project completion date is going to be March 31st, 2024. That is as long as all the materials and supplies and contractors are available. So seeing how the other projects went, we saw some delays in some of the air handling units, and we've discussed it already with the contractors that we are aware of some of those delays in the past, and we hope that they can get ahead of the game and that we wouldn't see those same delays. But again, it'll come down to availability of those materials. But we're very excited to see another new science lab going on in SCI. Other things that are taking place, ICT has been busy with their computer renewal project. October 3rd was a huge implementation day for Edward Schreier School. They were able to complete that school. We have another large completion date this coming Friday, October 20th. The goal is to install about 200 computers in addition to some laptops as well. At least 200 laptops will be deployed within the month for some of the schools as well. So ICT has been very busy trying to load those computers and image them, getting them ready to be deployed at our other schools of Beausejour, Early Years, Gillis, and Hazel Ridge. As well, the department is working on the phone renewal project, so there is some issues still taking place. If families are calling our school from an analog or an old-fashioned landline, our schools in the Beausejour area, even our education center and business center, we're getting feedback from those communications. So what we're finding is we sometimes have to let those folks go and try and call them again, or try a different method of communication, just because the feedback is so difficult. So we've been working with Rogers now on the issue. They are our service provider, and they're trying to mitigate the issue, as well as they think by installing a patch that may, in the system, that may resolve that issue. However, we won't know until the patch is installed.
Anything for Jody?
Just one comment. Since September, when I phone from my cell phone to our landline, I get such a bad echo, like I'm getting on my mic, that I have to hang up and phone my husband's cell. And we're with MTS for both our phones and our landline. So just so that you know, so that's in the Enola area, not Beausejour. Yeah, and it's so bad, it's like I hear myself completely what I'm saying over, and he doesn't, and he can't hear me at all. So it's not just unique to this area or the provider.
Yeah, we've narrowed it down to the Beausejour area, but that's interesting to note. I will definitely bring some information. If ICT doesn't know, it might be something else for sure.
Are we not going to pay Rogers then? Just kidding. That was my inside voice. I shouldn't have used it, but that's ridiculous. Let's get it done, and I know you're working on it, so thank you for that. Anything else for Jody? Trustee Harris?
The modular classroom at the Early Years, is there an estimate on when they're going to put people in there?
What I understand is there's still an occupancy permit that has to be issued, so we don't have a timeline yet on that.
But everything else is in place then?
It does have to be inspected to get that occupancy permit, but everything has been installed.
I was there last week and they were just waiting on the stairs that were supposed to be there right away.
What I'm hearing here is that it does need to be inspected, right? So the issue is about being inspected and then hopefully get an occupancy permit.
Right, my concern or my questioning was that it arrived on site on August the 3rd, and it'll be 3 months for it to have someone in it. That seems...
Nothing wrong with asking that question. It's totally fine about asking the question. You know what, I'm sure that the kids are looking at this classroom and wanting to get in there. The principal's looking at it wanting to get in there. People that drive by and the trustees that drive by and say, come on, man, it was here August the 3rd. What are we doing? So there's nothing wrong with that question. You know what, we keep on working on it, but let's stay on top of it for sure as to where we are. It's going to be the same question is that, you know, that I have is we have 200, I don't know how many computers that we still have in boxes. I don't want to have any computers in boxes at the end of October. You know what? And if we need a plan, let's get a plan as to where we are. But and Don made the question that talked about last year. I mean, last meeting, they still have computers. Yes, we do. But we've got brand new computers in boxes. Let's get them out as quickly as we can. Yes, sir.
So we heard the word delay 4 times in that report, and it's written in the report several times. So it's not unique to the Early Years. It's not unique to the computers. It's been around the division. I guess on a positive note, the scaffolding is gone from the high school. Unbelievable. That's ESS. We have more than one high school in the division.
Anything else?
Not done yet, but the scaffolding stuff.
Anything else for Jody? Okay, thanks, Jody. Keep us informed, certainly, on those two issues as to where we are. We'd love to find out where things are going. Thank you. We're going to go to our divisional mileage rate. I think this is Jody.
Yeah, I'm just going to pull up the report here. Every year we check the mileage rate twice a year, April and October. The last time we increased the rate was in April to 52 cents. At this time, there's a recommendation not to increase the rate. There was consideration in a couple areas such as budget, what other costs are taking place in fuel. We saw that there was a bit of a trend of the fuel costs decreasing since the last time we even reported in October of last year. The fuel cost was about $1.80. So now we've decreased down to about $1.55. At the same time, we will review in April. We'll do a comparison where we are in the ballpark of other school divisions as well. The last time we did it, we were in the mid-range of all the other school divisions. Knowing that another full year will go by, we'll see which school divisions also increased their rates or held the rate. But for the most part, we haven't seen much change since our last rate, even in the CRA rates. There was no change July 1st. Sometimes CRA will do an allowance adjustment January 1st and July 1st. There was no change in July. And the Joint Council, the National Joint Council, even decreased their mileage rate by 1 cent. So kind of staying on par. And I think the next time in April, we'll take another look and see where we're going to sit at.
Comments, questions? So I don't disagree, but I do want to share something. Manitoba School Boards, 62 cents a kilometer. And if you're outside of the perimeter, 15 cents added on top of it. So I'm not sure where everybody's getting the 77 cents to go ahead and do that, but that's the Manitoba School Boards. So if we don't have anything else, we need a motion. So the motion is, it's somewhere here, isn't it? Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees set the divisional mileage rate at 52 cents a kilometer effective October the 1st. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Dent, seconded by Trustee Boytson. Questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Thank you. Past 8-0. We have a promise. Good work, Jody. Thank you. Promissory note. So be it resolved that the board approve the promissory note LTPS 0670 for the sum of $1,145,300 as outlined for capital projects Springfield Science Lab renewal. Whoa, Springfield, that's a lot. That's a big lab for Springfield Science. Holy mackerel. All right, so we need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Dent, seconded by Trustee Rowan. Questions to it? Hearing none, we'll vote. Thank you, 8-0. Parent Council status report. This is you, Kath?
Just 2 items on the report, so you will see that there is a listing of which groups are having parent councils on which nights and who's in charge. But then we also sent a memo to all of the schools asking the principals and the parent council president to get some information back to us around what might be topics of interest for a potential divisional PAC meeting and whether or not they would find value in gathering and attending. So those are the 2 pieces there.
Again, we are the ones that are talking about a divisional PAC meeting and trying to get some feedback from people, so thank you to that. Okay. So, Kath, I see yeses here about being active. Meeting dates. Okay, so when it's blank with meeting dates, I guess the local trustees need to contact the schools to find out about it.
That or the school parent council sets their next meeting date at the last meeting. They will meet and say, hey, what's a good date for everybody?
We're now talking about math pacing, are we not, Kath? Oh, sorry, Melissa.
I was just going to make a comment that Dugald actually changed their meeting dates to the second Tuesday of the month.
And that's the 18 people that were there? Nice. All right, math pacing, this is you, Kath?
So you have the report in front of you, and I won't go through the report, but I will talk to you a little bit about how long we've been working on the pacing and sequencing. So we in education use acronyms like you wouldn't believe. NAP is the Numeracy Assessment Program, MRLC is the Manitoba Rural Learning Consortium, and I think those are the acronyms in there. Essentially what happens is that we have all of our grade 6, 7, 8, and 9 teachers following a pacing and sequencing guide. We identify foundational outcomes that they work on at the beginning of the year. They do reach back teaching, they do lesson deconstruction, and they get those foundational outcomes solid with each of the classes according to the pacing guide and in the order that's listed. In February, they start to do quizzes, foundational quizzes, and they then can take those quizzes in real live time and address the issues that might be coming back and reteach some things and do those kinds of lessons. They do assessments on a lovely data tool, and we've just improved the data tool so that teachers have that right at their fingertips. It used to be that they would do a yearly assessment. It would come here, we would enter it, we would get it all loaded up and send it back to teachers, but teachers now have access to that tool. And then the last piece is that we are intending to expand to grade 5 next year, and then I believe grade 10 the following year, and that will be sort of the block of the work that we do in the sequencing and pacing. And that is something that all teachers right now in grade 6 to 9 do in their math classes. Huge successes.
Question for Kathy? Trustee Nicol?
You said all the grade 6 to 9 teachers were trained. What happens to those teachers that came in September?
So part of our math program leader will work with them, but then the other part about building capacity is that if we have teachers in grade 6 to 9 who are doing that work, they can partner up and can do some learning with and from one another. So having everybody across the division doing that training kind of does a bit of that building capacity. You'll note that there are some sessions that we pull teachers together. We'll have some of those new teachers come and join that as well, because the concept of what we're doing across the grade levels doesn't change, the curriculum does. So they can then join in and kind of do some of that work in that way, because there's constant turnover. It's a great question.
Anyone else? Kathy, you used the term reach back teaching. Can you explain?
So something from way back in the day when I attended school was, today was the day we learned these, notions or concepts, or we learned how to multiply 2-digit numbers, and then we did it for that week and we left it behind and we did something else. And so reach back and spiral teaching is that those foundational outcomes keep coming back, and we keep reaching back to those foundational outcomes, or we spiral teach to keep them current, so that we don't do fraction multiplication in the 3rd week of September and then you don't see it till grade 10 or the next year. They are constantly coming back, and we're constantly reaching back to get those foundational outcomes in a really high level of exposure for kids to practice.
Thanks, Kath. Anyone else? Okay, 8.5, École Edward Schreier. Be it resolved that the board approve in principle the École Edward Schreier grade 9 to 12 high school boys hockey team trip to Ottawa on December the 7th to 10th, subject to superintendent's final approval. And a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Harris, seconded by Trustee Reed. Questions on this? So Kelly Schweitzky, if you're listening online, I did tell you the other day that I was going to really think hard about voting on this after you guys beat us. So we'll call the question. No, sorry, we'll vote. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. And it passed 8-0. Thank you. And you know what? I also want to make a comment. Kudos to the people that are taking our kids. You talked about, Kathy, about taking our kids, you know, and coaching. But these are people then that are going above and beyond and taking our kids, whether it's on a band trip or whether it's going to, you know, see dinosaurs in Alberta or whatever. These are people that are spending lots of time with our kids. Kudos to the group of people that are doing these kind of things. We have weather policy. Ooh, Kath.
It's my favorite topic ever, closure due to weather. So I'm going to take you on the highlight reel of the closure due to weather. I included both policies, and it is just one of those, if I do a really good job of letting people know exactly what it is, maybe we won't have cold weather, maybe we won't have closures. That's just my, you know, outlook. One of the things that is super, super important for us to note is that we have sort of two situations where we would close schools. One is because of hazardous weather or road conditions. So here in section B, it is when there is blizzards or ice-covered roads or any other condition that might put people at risk, and we close because of a safety reason like that. If it is because of hazardous weather or road conditions like that, we close the entire division. We don't close by regions, because we have people traveling across the division, and it's super hard to figure out where the blizzard starts and ends and where it might travel, so it is an all or nothing closure. When we do an all division closure, we have every student in division, and this is new to our policy, is provided with some at-home learning materials. It might be at the elementary school they have a super secret special snow bag of stuff they can crack open. It might be that they're going online and getting something from Teams. It is important to note that this is not work that is required to get done for the next day. This is practice work. This is work that can help parents and students out. If you as a family are saying we are going snowshoeing in the blizzard, or we are going to organize that sock drawer or bake some cookies, that is A-OK, but we're wanting to make sure that there is some materials that, in case you're looking for something educational to kind of entertain your kids with or to keep them occupied or to keep growing those skills, there are some pieces that they have there when they are at home and everybody's at home. When we have extreme cold, and a large part of this is tied to our busing, and you heard that we're very large geographically. We have 3 spots in the division where we actually don't have cell coverage, and our buses disappear off of the software. It's kind of like going to the moon. We count down the 3.22 seconds and hope that they come back. Minus 35 is our temperature alone decision maker, and minus 45 is the temperature with wind chill. And I've said to schools and to parents and to anyone, it is not the temperature in your car because I'm not in it. It's not the temperature on your phone because I'm not there with you either. It is not the temperature you heard on the radio. It is at Environment Canada. And so we go to that specific site so that it is consistent and where we are looking at the same place all the time. I'll go backwards. Region 3 is Powerview, and we use the station at Victoria Beach is the Environment Canada Pine Falls that comes up. It is the Pine Falls lookup, but it's a Victoria Beach station. In Region 2, Whitemouth, Lac du Bonnet, and Centennial, it is the Environment Canada Pinawa station. There have been some issues with Pinawa, and I feel there might be some gremlins that have been tampering with the Environment Canada and Pinawa because we've gone through several iterations of there has been no temperature registered. So we have looked elsewhere if the station has not been working, and we have communicated with Environment Canada to get that station operational for the reasons that we need it. Our biggest contention is in Region 1, so when we look to close in Oakbank or Beausejour, we use the Environment Canada station at the airport, as does Selkirk, as does the Interlake, because there is no Environment Canada station closer than that. The next closest one is Steinbach, and Steinbach has a drastically different weather band than from the airport. If there is anything that anybody would like to do about lobbying Environment Canada, getting a station in our backyard would be a lovely ask of Environment Canada. Right now, this is the closest station that we can use. I do also have to say sometimes that the temperature and the little teeny tiny numbers is 44.6. That is not 45, and the big number sometimes says 45, and I've had questions on that one as well. So look for the little number as well as the big number when you're looking for the temperatures. On cold weather days, our staff come into the schools because we're concerned about that safety of the buses and the green fluid that goes through them. I'm not the transportation person. We're concerned about some freezing in those big buses that carry our kids and making sure that they're all safe. Our staff in individual vehicles can typically make it into school, so they're at work. And for these situations, there is some online or some remote learning offered for students. It is not the regular day. At 9 o'clock, we don't go, okay, I'm going to math class now, and at 10, I'm going to social studies, but teachers are available virtually. Because of our geographic region, we sometimes have bus drivers who can cancel their individual route. They don't. They are diehards, and they will go through just about anything. So if they have canceled a route, it is legit. This I know to be true. We try really, really hard to make the decision by 6:30. Environment Canada updates their stations on the hour, and about 6:09 to 6:11 is when they hit these areas. And so we try really hard to make that decision by 6:30. Last thing that we do is 2:30. Where's my 2:30? Here we go. Oh. Evening staff, which page? Thank you. Evening activities. There we go, perfect. In the event of hazardous conditions, thank you. This is new that we've added to here, that sometimes we have our cleaning staff who come in at the end of the day. So when all of the kids and the staff go home, we have cleaning staff and custodial staff who come in. If we know that there's a blizzard on its way in, we may pick up the phone and say, don't come in, stay put, or we might have them go home early. If that is the case, the extracurriculars are off because we don't have anybody in the school, and so those are all canceled. Thank you for pointing it out. I feel as though we are now weather safe.
So just for people that are listening online, this is not something that's decided by the superintendent or the secretary-treasurer. This is the policy that's made by the 9 of us, the 9 school trustees. And Kathy administers the policy that we go ahead and set. If we're not happy with this policy, then we change the policy. But as of right now, the 9 of us have set this policy before, and if we want to go ahead and change it, then we would go through a change process to a policy. But this is what Kathy administers based on what we've set out. So if we don't like it, we can change it, and Kathy needs to follow the policy that we have. But again, for parents, and thanks for bringing this in, Kath, is that that's just the guide as to where we are. So any questions from anyone? Okay, nice work. And of course, we're never going to use it, so that's good. 8.7, Springfield Middle School Jazz Band to the Brandon. Be it resolved that the board approve in principle the SMS Jazz Band to Brandon Jazz Festival on the 14th and 15th of March 2024, subject to superintendent's approval. Need a mover and a second. A moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Trustee Rowan. Questions? Hearing none, will vote. Passed 8-0. We also have Springfield Middle School Grade 7 Concert Band, Level 1 Festival in Brandon. Or did I just do that? No. So be it resolved that the board approve in principle the Springfield Middle School Grade 7 Concert Band to Level 1 Festival in Brandon on the April 23rd to 24th of 2024, subject to the superintendent's final approval. I need a mover and a second. Moved by Trustee Dent, seconded by Trustee Boytson. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Passed 8-0. 8.9 is be it resolved the board approve in principle the Springfield Middle School Grade 8 Concert Band to Moose Jaw Kinsman International Band Festival in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, May 15th and 17th on 2024, subject to superintendent's final approval. Moved by Trustee Rowan, seconded by Trustee Boytson. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. I almost weren't going to Moose Jaw. It passed 8-0. Thank you for that. I think now we're into committee reports. So we have our policy committee. Trustee Nicol, you are the policy chair. Would you like to share anything about policy?
We had a meeting last night, so that's why there's no minutes on the agenda. We looked at policy 1, 2, 3, and 12. We looked at the procedures from CA to CHH to CHA. We made some grammatical mistakes, but we didn't change any of the policies, so we're not bringing anything to the board.
It'll come at our next meeting then? Minutes will come at our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for Trustee Nickel? Thank you. So now we have Finance Committee. Trustee Boytson, anything you want to share?
No, our meeting is next week, so the next meeting will have something.
Okay. So the signing authority for October is still Trustee Harris. You'll be doing a fine job, Mr. Harris. We do not have any action items for the Finance Committee. We have the Educational Foundation Committee. We have a meeting scheduled for the 24th at 2 o'clock. Is there anything else to add, Jody, or is that just we have our meeting on the 24th?
Yeah, I think that's the key.
Professional development. So again, we know the fall AGM is on the 23rd and 24th. Stacy, has everybody contacted you? Okay, just about. So that tells me that not everybody has. So if you haven't contacted Stacy about accommodations or getting into the AGM, please do so. We had the virtual, as I mentioned earlier, the collective bargaining workshops, thanks to I think there was 5 or 6 of us that attended. Thank you for that. And the governance virtual workshop, is on October the 25th, if anybody's interested. We do not have a financial summary report. Nice to know some information, so some information that's down there. And we did talk about, there was a false alarm with the Powerview School lockdown, but I think that the staff did a great job certainly to it. We don't want to talk about SCI's hockey team and winning the home consolation. We have upcoming meetings that are there. We have the Northeastman Forum, a reminder about that. A reminder then is that we have coming up at our next meeting, Jody, do we have our auditor's report, do we not? Correct. Want to talk about that very quickly?
Yeah. So on October 24th, we'll have MNP present the audited financial statements. 7 o'clock on the 24th, it'll be public. So we've reached out to the municipalities, inviting them to come should they have any questions. But the idea is just to talk about the 22-23 financial fiscal year that just ended in June and the outcome of that.
Thanks, Jody. 13.1 talks about our press release, and he's in the room, so on behalf of all of us, Trevor, congratulations for the work that you're going to do and that you continue to go ahead and do. And welcome aboard, and you're now coming to every meeting under the sun, so congratulations, Trevor. Welcome aboard to us. Yeah. Ouch. So we do need to move into camera, correctly?
Any questions?
Oh, sorry, that's right. Do we have any questions from the public, Jody?
No question.
Mr. Reed, do you have any questions? All right. Good first answer, Trevor. There we go. So we do need to move in camera, and we'll be coming back out of in camera, correct? All right, so let's take, what time is it? 8:33, so can we take 5 minutes and then get back together if we need to? Well, we're not, if
for exemplary status?
Yeah, so every ineligible student or family gets to apply each year because our routes change every year. As the grade 12s, leave our system and kindergartens come on, or we have different routes, they don't stay the same. The same size buses don't stay on routes. So every year there is an annual application process for those ineligible students.
Anyone else? I'll go round table. Trustee Rowan, do you want to say anything?
I feel for the family. They're in a difficult situation. Daycare is hard to come by, but given the fact that we're hearing how much growth is happening in the Scarce and Tyndall area, I'm not sure that we as a board should be voting to give away those seats if we're not going to be able to accommodate those that will need it.
Thank you, Trustee Rowan. Trustee Reed, any comment?
Yes, I've seen about 4 of these situations over the years, and I always feel that we should try to accommodate the students if we can, simply because they're young, and it's very tough for the parents to find sitters and things like that. So I like to think that if we can, we should accommodate the person or persons asking for, I suppose you could say they're asking for a break, and it just seems to me if we can, we should go along with that or give them a chance at least. I guess that's it.
Thanks, Trustee Reed. Can you turn your microphone on? Trustee Smith, anything to add?
This is actually difficult for me. I don't like to see parents put out in any way. I've been in difficult situations myself. I understand that if we give them a spot, they'll have to possibly give it up. But I am for giving them the spot, and they will agree to give it up. I know they'll give us a hard time, but you know what? I'd rather do that than not give them a chance. That's just the way I feel.
Thanks, Trustee Smith.
I feel for the family too, and the young student. However, based on the current policy, I'll regrettably need to vote no on the request. With that said, I would encourage the Transportation Department to find a solution that would enable all students, all student busing requests in the Gillis area, and of course throughout the entire division, to be met. This is a tough one. Thanks.
Any last comments from anyone? Okay. Hearing none, we'll vote. So we're going to send the question out again. Yeah, you know what? Since we had a little bit of difficulty doing it this way, let's do this by hand. Okay? So all those that are in favor of the motion, raise your hand. If you're in favor of the motion, raise your hand. So I've got Trustee Rowan, I've got Trustee Nicol, Trustee Boytson, Trustee Dent, Trustee Harris, and Trustee Magnon. And opposed? Trustee Smith and Trustee Reed. Okay, so the motion is approved. So the motion was a negative motion, as in deny, but the the delegation's denial as, the delegation's request has been denied. We are now ready to adjourn. I think that's it, right? We've gone to, yeah, so we're adjourning, right? All right? Adjournment. Thank you.